When you see a longish queue nowadays, you may be pretty sure it's for those elusive cigarettes.
1948, a shortage of cigarettes and some advice from government.
If all smokers would just smoke 1 cigarette less in 10, we'd get somewhere. I'm doing it.
Today, that plan's evolved. The government wants to create an entirely smoke-free generation.
Tobacco and Vapes bill.
It's a decision based on health needs, say the government, but with economic benefits too.
Smoking costs the economy some £17 billion, and yet we raise only £10 billion in taxes from smoking. So we want to make this choice as simple as possible, both for adults to help them quit, but also we want to help parents support their children to ensure that they never ever take up this incredibly addictive and very harmful habit.
The plan: raise the legal age of buying tobacco by 1 year every year until it covers everyone in the UK. So anyone who didn't turn 15 by the end of 2023 will never be allowed to buy cigarettes.
In 50 years' time, you're going to have an old boy coming to tobacconists saying that I'm 64 years old, I'm entitled to buy cigarettes, but my friend here next to me who's 63 can't buy cigarettes. It's ridiculous. It's not enforceable. I'm going to vote against it.
Not just the view of the odd Tory backbencher, but the odd former Tory Prime Minister too.
I know that smoking is bad for you, and that is why smoking is declining fast in the UK, and that's why any attempt by government to prohibit smoking is, in my view, a monstrous waste of police time and resources.
The main opposition for it seems to be from within your own party. Is there a 100% guarantee that you are committed to this is going to be seen through?
This is an incredibly important policy. Smoking kills. We do not want our children and young people taking up smoking.
There's not just policy but politics at play here. There have been continued rumours of a push against the Prime Minister, questions over whether or not he'll make it to a general election. So why risk what little political currency he has on a policy no one was calling for? Tory MPs have openly called this ban unconservative, said they'll vote against it. Getting it through Parliament may rely on Labour votes. But sources say the Prime Minister's pushing ahead anyway because this is his legacy. In this warehouse next to Heathrow, the scale of what the Prime Minister is trying to achieve becomes apparent. Not just clamping down on smoking, but vaping too. A smoking alternative so popular, ports are flooded with fakes.
Literally tons. I think in 1 week we had something like 600,000.
600,000 of those little disposable vapes?
Yeah.
A problem on an industrial scale, possibly containing industrial fluid.
This one being an illegal one, you've got no idea what it is. Yeah, it could be engine oil, it could be anything. It could be it's just rubbish.
And now, for the first time, researchers at UCL have published a new study drawing a link between vapes and increased risk of cancer. It's found people who vape suffer similar changes to their DNA as smokers.
We don't know the long-term effects. Studies like these make us think we really don't want current non-smokers to take up vaping, and in particular, marketing to children is utterly unacceptable.
The government says they'll restrict flavours, change the packaging and where they can be displayed. In short, make them less appealing to kids.
We've listened to parents and we know that they're very worried about this, and we know...
So you accept that there are lots of young people who are now vaping who had never smoked, and it's all happened under your government's watch?
Today we are acting to bring this legislation forward to help create the first smoke-free generation, but also to ban disposable vapes because of all the problems we know that they cause for families, but also for the environment.
If this law passes, the UK will have some of the strictest smoking laws in the world. Making it law, though, might not just be a question of health, but a test of leadership.
Well, the Public Health Minister, Andrea Leadsom, spoke to me earlier, and I began by asking her about criticism of the ban from the former Prime Minister Liz Truss, who said a Conservative government should not be seeking to extend the nanny state.
Essentially, if you're addicted to nicotine, you don't have any choice. So actually what we're seeking to do is to stop young people, kids, from starting smoking, because in effect, if they get addicted to nicotine, they, like all smokers, are likely to die of it, and they will not have the choice. So to sort of say that this is something about free choice and nanny state is just, it's not really relevant in the case of this bill.
Well, you probably know those were words spoken by Liz Truss, and she made the point that these are adults' freedoms that you're taking away when the time comes.
Well, they're not actually. So nobody who's smoking today will have their rights to smoke curtailed in any way.
Yeah, but those children will eventually be adults.
Actually, a combination of strong enforcement on underage smoking and then actually for smoking making every year 1 year older does mean that those young people will never take up smoking. And the idea is that it will die out. Culturally, it just won't be something that you think about doing.
So is Liz Truss deluded or dangerous, or a bit of both?
I wouldn't use those words in the context of Liz, but I just don't agree with her.
What would you say to your own kids about vaping?
Well, my kids don't vape. I actually decided that I would offer them a significant sum of money if they each reached 21 and could tell me that they weren't a smoker or a vapor. So they've all tried it, but none of them were that keen. And actually, they've all so far cashed in. I've got one of my children is yet to be 21, but I think she's going to make the cut as well.
How much have you given them?
I think that's between me and them, Kathy.
What, like, we're talking thousands, though?
No.
A small bribe, a few hundred.
Yeah, a few hundred. But when you're that age, that is a meaningful sum. And it is certainly worth it to me because I took up smoking when I was 14 with my sister who was 12. And by the time I was 20, I was smoking 40 a day. And actually, the interesting thing is that is now 40 years ago. I gave up as my 21st birthday present to myself. It was so hard. And now, when I find myself talking about smoking all the time, sometimes I think, do you know what? I would really fancy a cigarette. So even 40 years having not smoked, it still has the power to kind of pull me in.
Just Liz Truss and her allies are in revolt over this, the smoking ban. They're also rebelling over plans to scrap short-term prison sentences. I just wonder if you feel sorry for the Prime Minister having a bunch of such disloyal colleagues, or whether he's brought it on himself.
Well, I think the Prime Minister is getting on with the day job. And, you know, the great news is we saw a big drop in inflation today, now at 3.4%, which, you know, at the peak it was over 11%. You know, I think the Prime Minister is just getting on with his day job and not worrying too much about some of the particular issues that individual colleagues have with particular bills.
Well, is Penny Mordaunt also getting on with the day job? You managed her leadership campaign, after all, a couple of years ago. She's considered an arch plotter by the Prime Minister's allies. Has she given you a bell and asked if you can do another campaign for her?
Penny is a totally loyal person. She is just getting on with her day job. You know, she and I, yes, we are good friends. Neither of us are plotting anything. She is absolutely getting on with the day job, totally loyal to the Prime Minister. This is all completely made up.
Do you think she'd run again if there was another contest?
Irrelevant. She is supporting the Prime Minister.
Andrea Leadsom, thanks very much.
Thanks.